Hello, everybody, and welcome to the first ever episode of Stephanie Reads. This is a series that I'm going to be putting together that is not book recommendations. It's going to be book reviews, book descriptions. What we look for in books is so personal and so individual. Two people can read the exact same book and get completely different things out of it and love it for completely different reasons. Or two people who loved one series and moved on to a read-alike series. One person could hate it and one person could love it. So I am not going to be doing any recommendations because I don't know what you're looking for in a book. But what I can do is I can break books down and describe them and hopefully do a good enough job that you can decide if that's something you'd be interested in or not. So that's my goal here, is to really break a book down and get down to the nitty-gritty of how it works and how it reads so that you can make your own decision on what you want to read and what doesn't really sound like something you'd be interested in. As librarians, we have kind of made a language that we use to talk about books and how we analyze them when we read them to be able to talk about them to other people. And there's four, we call them elements of appeal. They're the four main categories that we look at when we're reading a book. The first one is pacing, and this just talks about like how a book reads. Is it a quick read with lots of dialogue that moves really quickly, or is it something that focuses more on like description and language and world building that maybe doesn't move as quickly but has a more vivid picture that it paints? So that's what we're referring to when we're talking about pacing. Next, we talk about characterization, which is just how does the book develop its characters? How does it approach talking about them? Are these characters that are kind of archetypes that don't need to be developed very much because you recognize them right off the bat? Or are they well developed over time, slowly, with lots of description and lots of interpersonal relationships? Are they developed over a whole series? So maybe there's not as much character development in each book, but you are with the characters for a really long time, so you get to see them develop over the whole series. Then there's storyline. So does a story emphasize people, or does it emphasize situations and events and that sort of thing? And the emphasizing situations and events are usually books that move a little more quickly back to the pacing. Are they books that work on more than one level? Is there a couple different storylines that are interwoven? Is there just a straightforward storyline? Are there flashbacks? That sort of a thing. And then we have frame and tone. And frame and tone are frames like where the book takes place. You know, is it a historical novel that takes place in France during World War II, or, you know, in the summertime in Florida where it's hot and muggy? Or is it maybe a sci-fi book that takes place in outer space? So that's the frame. And then the tone would be like the whole tone of the book. So is the book kind of darker or gritty or humorous or upbeat or lighthearted? So that's like the feel you get from a book when you walk away. Like, ooh, man, that book was really thought-provoking, or, oh, book was kind of dark, or whatever. That's what they're talking about with the tone. So those are the things that we talk about when we break down how a book is, what really speaks to people as a book. And it's helpful to know this as a reader as well, because you can kind of be looking at this now when you're reading books and be like, what is it that I really liked about this book? So when I'm talking about books, these are the things that I'm specifically going to be looking at and talking about when I'm describing them. And hopefully we'll find you some books you really want to read. So I will see you in my next one when we're going to be talking about an actual book. All right. Bye.